Dogs. Dogs! Oh my god. Ruby's got a bit of a wild streak in her. She's been really, really good with me calling her when she comes back, but I don't know if she spent a little too much time in her pen today. I don't know, which is a large pen. And a fun little shed in there and stuff for her, and we came home. I think I put $3,000 worth of wire around this property to keep her fence in the whole property. She's a Houdini. She got under the fence in a couple spots, and once she realized she can lift it up with her nose, she'd slip under, so I had to patch up a couple of those spots. Sarah said she keeps going on adventure now and then and coming back when I'm not here. So today was the day we were going to strap on her, put her walking, not really vest, kind of like a harness on her, and I was going to strap up a GoPro to her front and then kick her loose out in the air and see if she escapes and if she goes on adventure and see exactly where she goes and what she does. So I just went in the shop to get the GoPro, came back out, and she took off. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me, she did not. She goes, yeah, she did. She went that way. I went to the back of the fence. I could see where a bear ripped the fence open. And she ripped out there. So I jumped the fence, went around the huge pasture, and way down across the road from a good neighbor who knows who she is. And I've seen her. She jumps up behind a bush. And I jumped over the other side of this berm, this wide open property field, and there she goes, ripping across the field, doing 5 million miles per hour behind a frickin' rabbit, doing the same speed. Diagonal across this field with the grass that big. Imagine if the GoPro hadn't been on her for that. So I go running over there. Now my head's thumping out of my skull because I just got back from getting my daily intravenous antibiotics. And she dove into the forest over here and went over the bank and went on adventure and disappeared. I was like on fire. I'm like, you little shit. She didn't come to me. Oh well. So anyway, I can rant about some other crazy ass shit, but I won't. So, what do we do now? I keep getting a pile of emails everybody's telling me to heal up, go to the doctor, get some antibiotics, get this, get that. I'm all over it. I went. I've been getting the intravenous antibiotics drilled into my arm. I got other ones I'm taking. I got painkillers. I'm on it. One more day of the IV in my arm tomorrow, and then that's it. Then I can go get this dealt with. So there. Now, just so you guys know, I just cracked open my Gmail account. Apparently I have Gmail, which I never use. And I don't even know how I got into there. For some weird reason, I was looking for something, and something asked me about Gmail, and I went, Gmail? I went into Gmail. You have to have Gmail to have YouTube, I guess. And there's 1,190 emails in my Gmail account. 1,190 more emails. Not all are experiences, but there's a shit pile, I'll tell you what. It's funny though, right? You tell everybody every single video, share my story at howtohunt.com. That's where you get your emails heard word for word. But for some strange reason, over 1,000 people emailed their stories into proguide66@gmail.com, which I don't use. I never use it. It's unfortunate. So if you did send an email there, don't send it to the other one. It's sent. I found it. I'll go through it. And don't send any more there, you guys, alright? Please. Please. Now let's see who we've got. Let's get some people heard. Alright, here we go. What do we got? I'm going to go into the Gmail, and this is the only time I'm going to do it. Hello, Steve. I'm a fellow hunter. Spend all my time in the bush hunting and fishing. I'd like to share an experience with you I had October 7th, 2023, while hunting in the Bull River area. My brother and I had decided to take a hike into this high mountain lake where we had glassed elk the previous evening. Went up in the dark the next morning. When we started out, it was pretty thick regen that eventually opened up into big mature cedar forest. About halfway through the cedar, we hit a small band of spruce and pine, with 2 trees about 10 feet apart that were snapped in half, about 6 to 7 feet high, and broke in the same direction pointing uphill. There's trees similar in size around that weren't broke or bent from snow or wind. We both thought it was odd. We're big fans of the channel and have had other weird experiences that have led us to be believers for a long time. Anyway, we both thought the tree breaks were very odd, but we continued up the hill anyway. Shortly after this, we were hit with this smell, and we both noticed it right away. As we climbed a few hundred more meters, we stopped to have a snack, and we chatted about how uneasy we felt in the area. As we're chatting, we hear something crashing towards us from up the mountain. An easily 100-pound rock came flying down the hill at us where we stopped. We both looked at each other, packed up, got the F out of there. When back at the truck, we were talking about the whole thing, and both said we got an overwhelming feeling of get the F out. Anyway, Steve, huge fan. Keep doing your thing. And P.S. in the mountains of Nova Scotia, where I live, there is lots of Sasquatch sign. And I've had 2 experiences there as well. If you're ever out that way, look me up. Thanks. Okay, man. That was in the East Kootenays for all who may be curious. And here's another email from the same person. Oh, he said, here's the picture of the trees in the next email. Oh, you got the pictures of them. All right, man. Gotcha. Nothing new here, right? More tree breaks. Seen it all enough times. I'm good. I'm glad to hear that there are hunters here. Especially from British Columbia, following this channel on their own. Now let's keep going back down. Sounds like my dog. Oh man, I don't even know where I left off. But get this one. Mr. Dumbass missed out on a message. It was on that box of goodies. Listen to this. Steve, first off, I'd like to say thank you for your platform. I've been following you for the last 4 years, and I've learned a great deal more from the people than any other information I like combined. Yeah, me too, man. I've sent you my encounter that happened in late October '92. But this box of hat hook and hat clips are sent to you and Sarah and loved ones. My family, 3 children, 2 girls, 1 boy, under the age of 12, wanted to send you and yours some gifts. But when it came to shipping, the price to send them was the same as £2. So, talking with the children, they wanted to send a wide range of items. So that's why I have £2 of items, LOL. Steve, pick out what you want before Sarah and the kids get to too. Sorry, pick out what you want before Sarah and kids get to. You're like me in so many ways when it comes to compliments or praises. I'd sooner hide underneath the table. Yeah, I wonder why that is. It's an odd one, isn't it? All my family asks is you and your family enjoy the designs and share the ones you don't want with others. I'm Marvin McLeod. And my 2 girls are Lacey and Danny, and my son is Dylan. I have full custody. I contacted you about 5 weeks ago about the address I had was right. I'm not a writer. Ed, also thank you so much for what you do. Holy crap, thank you, man. And your designs are frickin' awesome, Marvin. And I have kept what I want. I'll keep it secret right now. And we shared with all the people here. So you said to share with loved ones. And you know what? Sharing with everybody here is exactly what I did. So, thank you so much for that. And I have a funny feeling a lot of people are going to get a hold of you as a result of that too. So get ready. Get ready. I'm sure they're coming. And I read the other notes from you too. And on the Club of No Return item, I wouldn't know where to start. Oh yeah, I guess you could do something like that with the silhouette, couldn't you? Yeah. You know what? I don't think there's anything I could say to you to give you an idea to design anything. You've nailed everything that I saw that you made. Was frickin' awesome. So, if you want to do something like that, give her. I don't think you could do anything wrong when it comes to what you do. Your skills are really great. And I'm going to send out a special hello to all of those children of yours that are watching the show. And sometimes, maybe I'll just say to the children, sorry about my gruff. My language sometimes can be a little bit colorful, a little too colorful for the kids. But I guess that's just part of life sometimes, isn't it? This is part of life sometimes. Sometimes some men go through life a little different than others. That's all. They don't mean any harm or anything bad. It's just the way they are. I'm sure the kids and everybody else on the planet knows deep down when some people are good or not so good anyway, right? Anyway, I'm babbling. I'm babbling. I took some painkillers. My face is starting to look a little more normal. As normal as it could ever be, I guess. Right? Now. Who do we got? What do we got? Alright, here's another one. My first encounter. I've been a viewer of your channel for 2 years. I watch the new and the old episodes almost every day. Your videos have given me the courage to come forward to share 4 of my experiences. They may be a bit lengthy, so please bear with me. Excuse me, no problem. I just ate dinner, so I'm good to go. I should start off by explaining that I was born into a large family. And when I say large, I mean I was one of 17 children. Holy shit. I don't think that could even be pulled off today. You imagine the grocery bill and especially the price of food currently? 17 kids. My first encounter began in 1968 and I was 7 years old. We had moved to a place called Confluence, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania again, go figure, right? We lived next to a very sweet elderly woman named Mrs. Appleby, who owned the house we were renting. In the backyard there stood a large wooden fence, the kind that you'd see in old western movies. Beyond the fence was a pasture where the cows were kept, including one very mean, deep black Angus bull. Mrs. Appleby stressed us never to go into the pasture because of the bull, who refused to let anyone get past the herd, would charge at / run you down in a heartbeat. On the upper side of the pasture there's a thick dense forest. Now, kids being kids, we wanted to build a cabin in that section of the forest. More like a makeshift shack to hang out in. My father, who was a lumberjack at the time, gave us permission. So the building began. After we had finished the cabin, we started furnishing it. It was long after that it was finished and ready for our first hangout. We loved spending time in it until one evening, late into August / beginning of September. Just as the temperatures had started to slip into the coolness of fall. My siblings, Terry, Bobby, George, Daisy, Ricky, Charlie, and Ronnie, and myself were laughing and having a great time when about 150 yards away, the sound of breaking limbs and growling started. Terry screamed for everyone to stay silent. We all froze. Through the stillness of our hangout, we could hear the chaos. Terry looked at George and asked if he knew what it could be. All hell was being let loose out there. Terry told us to stay put as he and George went to investigate what could possibly be happening. They had been out of sight for around 3 minutes when we heard them scream. They came running down at full speed. Terry began screaming, "Run, my God, run!" They never broke their stride. The rest of us were in a bit of a shock, but as soon as they could, they started bolting. Being a 7-year-old, I couldn't run as fast as they could. I couldn't believe they were leaving me behind. I could hear someone that I can only describe as, I could hear something that I can only describe as a bulldozer coming toward our newly constructed hangout. I managed to get to the fence where I crawled through a small space. I was about 30 to 40 feet away, and my siblings, now standing on our porch, started to scream at me. "Run faster, run faster!" I glanced behind me, and what I saw has haunted me for 54 years. It came through the clearing of the trees. It was 9 to 10 feet tall and about 700 pounds. Black in color with hair that hung about 12 inches off of its body. I could see his face because the wind was blowing so hard, the hair on its body covered it. Okay, let me read that one more time. I couldn't see his face. So the hair on his body covered it as if it were cloaked. Fear shot through my body. Not only was I witnessing something most would deem as impossible, but I was also standing in the middle of the Angus bull's territory. My eyes darted to the cattle, trying my best to find him. When I finally did, his focus wasn't on me, but the intruder that had stepped out onto the land where our cabin stood. No doubt. I finally reached the others, where they pulled me to safety. One of the boys ran to my father as we stood frozen in shock. We listened to it as it began ripping the cabin apart. My father pulled us close and forbade us from ever stepping foot into the forest ever again. Excuse me, flash forward 2 weeks and my father was looking for his favorite hammer. Terry and George both spoke up. "We left it at the cabin, Dad. Can we go get it?" He thought for a moment, but eventually agreed to let them go as long as it was quick, and they only grabbed the hammer. He stood at the fence and watched them make the trek up. When they came back down, he asked, "How's the cabin look, boys?" To which my brothers replied, "Utterly demolished." We never heard of a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot back then. We'd never seen anything like that before. My father told us all to never speak of the incident to anyone. Ah, that part. It doesn't matter how many times I read that part from various people, it'll never cease to make me feel the way I feel when I read it. Frustration. It just frustrates me that so many people have taken that reaction. Don't say anything. You know what? My neighbor sees something of that description right next to my chicken coop. I want to know. I want to know, right? Sorry. My family moved on and has never brought it up. As for me, it terrified me. I dreaded nightfall. I knew it was out there. I forced myself not to sleep. But on the rare occasion I did, the nightmares were relentless. Oh God, no doubt. The dreams eventually faded, as all dreams do, or at least I thought. 2 weeks ago, the nightmare I had then invaded my sleep once again. Oh, that sucks. My second encounter. The year is 1987. My BIL, Bill, my siblings, Bobby, Pete, Rick, Billy, and Ronnie, and myself got a job renovating a house. Construction was estimated to be about 3 months. My occupation at the time was a painter. So Bobby and I had to have the bedrooms and the basement walls done by the end of our contract. Because of unforeseen delays, we were running behind. So we were told we had one single night to finish the job or we weren't getting paid for what we had done. The house is off Route 40. The house was off Route 40 on Scat Road in Oniontown, PA. Approximately 6 miles out in the boonies, as we country folk call it, in yet another densely forested area. We'd never been on the property after night had fallen. We'd been having some paranormal experiences, I suppose you could call them. There was no doubt the house was haunted, but that's a story for another time. Excuse me. Sorry. As we began finishing up, we started hearing banging on the walls and the doors and the windows, and the security lights around the house came on and off in different areas, as if something was running around the house. All I wanted to do was leave. My sister felt the same. We quickly finished and headed out to lock up, but wouldn't you know, in true horror movie fashion, we couldn't get the garage locked. It was extremely dark out and we all carpooled. So, I just had dinner. So I made my way to the car. At the time I had a red Dodge Dart, sitting in the driveway, with the hope of turning on the lights and pointing towards them so they could see. It was in this moment I began to hear an all too familiar sound, the one I had hoped I would never hear again. The snapping of limbs. The bulldozer-esque rampage, the heavy footsteps. With the garage finally locked, they all jumped in and we set off for home, headed down the 6-mile dirt road to civilization. The main gate to the property was about a half a mile away from the home. We could hear it getting closer as it was following us. Ronnie and Billy jumped out of the car to lock the gate behind us. Again, I pulled the car around to shed a bit of light upon the area. I was about 30 feet from the woods to my left when suddenly a rock, approximately 12 inches in diameter, came flying out of the woods and hit the front left side of my car, putting a large dent in the quarter panel. My sister and I both screamed at the boys, pleading with them to be quick, when a second stone came flying out of the same direction, this time striking the hood. Another large dent. They jumped once again into the car and we sped off towards home. I never went back and didn't care to. My third encounter. 2010. My marriage of 20 years came to an end. With my divorce freshly in the air, I moved out of a little town called Granville, West Virginia, into an even smaller, unincorporated town called Purseglove, about 8 miles away, in a small trailer that stood on the top of a small mountain alone. I have 3 children who would spend weekends with me. One night, my smallest son wanted to stay in my room with me. He would often get afraid at night, so I allowed him. We both had fallen asleep pretty early, around 1 a.m. EST, Eastern Standard Time. We both were startled awake by heavy footsteps along the side of the house where the window peeked out towards the driveway. My son clanged to me afraid, asking me what was happening. I didn't let on how I too was afraid, and eventually soothed him back to sleep. I stayed up all night with my heart in my throat, wondering what would happen next. Thankfully, the source of the noise stumbled off into the woods. Flash forward some weeks, I'd removed the last row of seats in my van to haul some things and placed it on the porch. It was there that I would spend the majority of my time watching the sunsets and enjoying the quiet. I didn't realize in the moment that I'd fallen asleep. Now I am a minister. I believe heavily in Jesus and tend to pray quite a bit. I believe that all prayers are heard. I also believe that God can communicate to those who are willing to listen. In my sleep, I heard a voice whisper to me, "Son, get up." I was quite tired and I didn't want to move. Again, the voice came to me, "Wake up and listen to me." As I opened my eyes, I realized it was pitch black out. The voice rang out again, very slowly, "Get up." I responded, "But why?" "Because they're watching you," the voice said. I slowly stood and made my way inside, locking the door behind me. No more than 10 minutes later, I could hear the thunder rolling throughout the hills. The storm was going to be bad, but wait, what came after was even worse. Again, I heard the heavy footsteps. It jumped heavily onto the porch, shaking the entirety of the house. Whatever was out there began to rip the porch apart. The creature threw my glass table with the umbrella 15 feet away from my place, shattering the glass along the ground. It picked up my grill and threw it 12 feet in the opposite direction. The next morning, when I and my kids went out to survey the damage, All my possessions that once sat on my porch were now scattered throughout the yard, including the 50-gallon garbage can. We found out later on that the upper part of the mountain we called home had an entrance to an old mine shaft that was no longer in use. The opening was approximately 10 feet by, let me read that one more time. The opening was approximately 10 feet high by 20 foot wide. I heard the voice once again, "Get away from here. Get your children away from here. You're in danger here." I immediately gathered my kids and quickly made our way down the steep path to the house. A few nights later, again with my kids, on the porch we heard chattering towards the forest, followed by heavy footsteps. I knew we would never be alone up there, so for the safety of my family, I packed up everything and made my way off the mountainside. No frickin' doubt. My fourth encounter. My fourth and final encounter took place in 2014. We were doing some reconstruction in our house and needed to stay off-site for a while. A good family friend offered up his place for us to stay, and we graciously accepted. He lived off of what's called, the Kingwood Pike in Morgantown, West Virginia. I've been to Morgantown, West Virginia, believe it or not. The house would often be hot throughout the night due to there being no air conditioning. It was around 4:30 in the morning when I decided to step out for some air and a chance to cool off. I sat for a bit talking to God, just overall praying a bit. The area he lived in was heavily populated with deer. As I sat out there, I noticed that there were several herd of deer that came running through, panicked, as if they knew something I didn't. For the next several nights, every deer that ran through the area was desperate to get out. Now, across the field, there were a few apple trees. The apples hung just low enough for the deer to eat. It wasn't surprising to walk outside and see them gathered around. Until one day, when there were no deer located in the area, nightfall came and still no deer. 4:30 came once again. I couldn't sleep. I went up to the porch and sat for a bit. Now, in the area the house was located in, there were several more houses scattered throughout. One being a small cottage sitting directly across the road, with large bushes lining the outside of the house. Right next to the area was dusk to dawn light, letting off just enough light to show the area around it. As I sat there looking around, I noticed movement towards the house. First, something that resembled a head. Then, a head and shoulders. The figure finally stepped up from the bushes and into the light. I froze in shock. It walked to the edge of the bank towards my direction. The only thing separating us was asphalt. I could see it tilt its head back, sniffing the air around it as if it was trying to pick up my scent. The wind shifted, blowing uphill, and with that, my scent. It stood around 5'6" and 140 to 160 pounds, thin and covered head to toe in hair. Its face looked like leather, its nose flat. My mind continuously told me to run, but my body couldn't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't speak. After a few minutes of staring at each other, I gathered up the courage to yell at it. "Get out of here!" I screamed. It made its way to the blacktop of the driveway and began to tiptoe to the back of the garage. The dogs barking and carrying on as if they'd seen an intruder. The following morning, my second eldest son and I went across the road, and sure enough, there were unusually large footprints. I shared it with my church family and friends, and was met with ridicule. I felt like a fool. After finding your channel, I know what I've experienced was real. People can laugh if they want to, but it was real. Before God Almighty, it was real. Thank you for giving us a platform to share experiences without being terrorized. Thanks for giving me the courage to speak after keeping these experiences to myself for a long time. Reverend J.B. Harwood. Sir, I absolutely appreciate you sending that in. Oh, my nose is like, because of the pressure, I don't know what's going on. I don't have much feeling right here. It's itchy when I talk. Everything's, whatever. I'll shut up. This has got a little bit of weird discomfort that I'm not used to. Anyway, that's a pile of info right there. What would I say to all this? You know what? Ridicule? Put a bunch of... I'll watch my language. Send this email. You got the email addresses of those people at the church or wherever. Send them this video. Send it to them. And ask them if they'd take a few minutes out to listen to the honest people from around the world here sharing their truth. And this is a safe place where nobody laughs because 100% of the people here didn't ask to end up here. Didn't ask to have these experiences. And that's why I refer to this place as the Club of No Return, because once you know, you know. There's no going back. You can stick your head in the sand all you want. The nightmares will probably keep haunting the shit out of you and bringing you right back there anyway. So you might as well acknowledge it. Except the fact that, excuse me, you experienced what you experienced, saw what you saw, and there's no way of getting out of it. And thank God. There is literally hundreds of thousands of other people who've seen the same thing around the globe. And a lot of those people are here, right? I wonder how many people are here. You know, I know I look at a bunch of channels, some channels I follow, I don't subscribe to them. I just never think about hitting that. I never even suggest people to hit it, but I just don't. But I wonder how many people are actually really truly coming here and watching. I know altogether there's an average, I think the most we had was 10 million views in 28 days. And it's usually around 4 to 7 million right now anyway, views. And those are people who come here honestly curious of the topic for whatever reason they have. And I have a funny feeling that most of the people come here because they know. Either seen it, heard it, or somebody their family or loved ones or neighbor or co-workers jumped up and down and swore they saw what they saw. And that might spark a curiosity, I don't know. But either way, the voice of the people is attractive. The voice of the people works. The voice of the people is so powerful it's stupid. And the voice of the people is honest, right? That's why everybody's here. I'm babbling. Reverend Sir, thank you again so much for that. I'm glad you found us. I'm glad you got that off your chest, and I hope you share this video with some of those people who may have found some kind of humor here, where we don't really have too much humor here, I don't think, except when I make stupid comments, I guess, or something. Or I guess my face is pretty humorous right now. I look like a hamster with half his head full of seeds. Now, what's this about? Dunno. We're going to find out. Interesting occurrence. Excuse me. Good day, Steve. We've had lots of coyotes around this summer, including a mating pair. Got a few images and some video of them on my security cameras. Usually I don't hear them close up yipping or otherwise. I've never heard them growl, ever. I've seen a mated pair in June, and the similar gray, tan, and tan large and small coyotes. We're in a suburban area of western Washington state. We live in an attached 2-story condo with 4 adjacent units and nice grounds and a garden we maintain. On Thursday morning, the 5th of October, early in the morning, around 1:30 a.m., I went out to check to see if the lawn service guys left our sprinklers on when they're supposed to shut them off for the season. I went out on our front walk, took a pic of the water over the sidewalk with a flash, and I noticed it was super quiet as I went outside. An eerie silence, which was kind of odd to me, but hey, it was peaceful. As I flashed the sidewalk, an enormous cougar-like growl, or like a wolf growl, came from my left. I was startled and thought at first, oh, most likely a coyote. Except, In turning to my left across the way in between cars, I saw a shadow above the quarter panel of a car. What looked like a big cat head, but too large. Could have been anything. Did not notice any eyes. I thought, no way. Until I stepped back to the cement path from the lawn, took another flash picture, and whatever it was let out a long growl. More intensely again, seemingly irritated by my flash. A bone-chilling, guttural, rumbling growl of a large animal. I thought, what the heck? What animal is that? No way. I carry a 9mm on my side around the home for carry practice, but at the time, no chambered round. So, quickly turned and went inside. I freaked out as it got louder. Maybe closer. A deep rumble. A growl with a snarl. It was truly something I've never heard before in my life. The silence and dim lighting was super odd. No I-5 highway road noise from the distance that usually permeates the air, even early in the morning. As I entered the house, I mentioned to my wife what just happened. She said I looked quite shaken up and pale, and asked what was wrong. I sat and explained what happened, what I thought it could be. Looked up some YouTube videos showing various local wild Washington wildcats, including a mountain lion, which was the closest match, but not what I heard, and not the shadowy image I'd seen. It did me no good trying to settle my nerves. I later remembered the dim light, the darkness that went along with the lack of noise, the lack of other sounds which should have been heard. I recollected all the LED street lamp-like lighting from across in the parking area was also so subdued. Today I'm still feeling off. I checked cameras for images. Nothing but darkness during that time. Since that morning, Steve, the road noise is back, and lights are all normal and bright. Well, I wrote to my friend, Rob D., a well-studied researcher you know. Rob heard my story and said, John, I believe I know what it was. It wasn't a coyote. They don't make a sound like that. It likely wasn't a cougar. Their heads are not that big and high up. You're now in the club of no return. Once again. He said, John, it was likely a Dogman. Glad you went in the house when you did, John. Write into Steve. Share your story. Get it out. This incident now makes two for me, as my experience with two greys from the late 90s still reminds me on occasion that more beings exist than we are all aware. Matters not, most accepted as truth in their reality. Thanks all for listening, John. Quote, awareness, consciousness, and love to all, end quote. All right, man, thanks for sharing that. I don't know what you saw, but all I can do is tell you guys this. I think I've mentioned it before. I'll bet you I've had my hands on, I don't know. I'll bet I've had my hands on 200 wolves in my lifetime. Plus. And I can tell you with confidence, I've never heard a wolf growl. Not once. I've walked up to them in foot traps, which a foot trap holds onto them like handcuffs. Doesn't break the skin, doesn't cut them, doesn't hurt them, just grabs onto them above their wrist and they can't pull their foot out and they just lay there. And 100% of the time I've walked up to a wolf, a live wolf, it hasn't growled at me. It's averted eye contact, but mostly they just sit there like this. Oh shit. I have heard a wolf bark. I've heard wolves bark. What else have we heard from a wolf? Obviously we heard them howl. Heard them howl a lot. Heard them yip a lot. Howls, yips, short barks. I've never heard a growl. I'd imagine they growl. Well, you see them on the nature shows and the pens when they chuck them a chunk of meat and they all go at it and raise their hackles up and give some kind of a growl out. But for me personally, I've never heard a wolf growl in the wild ever. Never. Have I heard a bear growl. I've heard some weird noise. Bears make weird noises, especially when they're pissed off. I've had sow grizzly bears pacing back and forth, making slobbering, gross, intimidating, slobbery sounds when they're deciding whether or not they're going to kill me. Thankfully, that one time she decided not to. Had another one, grizzly bear, that followed me to camp one time. All these stories are on the internet. And even then, it was pacing back and forth in front of the cabin, and we opened the cabin door a couple times, and it rushed at us. And it was making weird slobbering sounds, no growls. So what I'm saying is, you know, we've all heard cougars growl. Lots of my friends treat cats, videotape cats, and you can hear them a little growl under the breath, but nothing you're going to hear that far away. It won't. A wild cougar's growl is not going to be heard very far away, and it's definitely not going to vibrate your body. But anyways, I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Coyotes too. I've been around a million coyotes, as we all have. Never heard one growl either. But anyway, what did you see? I haven't a clue. Dogman, again, I have accepted the Dogman thing as fact. I'd be an idiot not to. I have zero experience with the Dogman thing. I have zero acquaintances that have seen a Dogman thing. It bugs me that that's the chosen popular name for it, Dogman. You know what I mean? I get it. I don't ridicule it. But it's a tough thing to talk about with people who come with curiosity and they've never heard of anything like this before, and they go, "Oh, what? A Dogman?" You know what I mean? The Dogman thing. I always say that, don't I? The Dogman thing. Like I said, I still stand firm for me as I gaze out into the timber beside my house. If I seen something of that description standing right there looking at me with its eyes locked on me, and it sees me looking back at it, and my eyes are locked on it, and it appears to have a canine or a wolf head and a ripped upper torso standing on hind legs, 7 to 10 feet tall, possibly even red glowing eyes. I don't give a shit if they're glowing pink or if they're plaid pattern. I don't care. I'm putting a hole in its head. If it looks at me and it's staring me down right now, right there, Mr. 300 Ultra Mag's gonna come out and put a frickin' bowl, Campbell's soup can hole through his forehead. That's what's gonna happen. A lot of people say, "Don't do it, they seek revenge." Well, don't come and stare me down at my home, inside my home, you know what I mean? That'd just be too much. It's hard for me to picture. I'm looking out in the timber right now as the sun's setting through the trees. It's pretty dark out there, but I can still see somewhat. I've seen the silhouette of a large being looking at me from, I don't know, 10 yards away, 15, whatever it was. That's etched into my head forever. But I didn't see the facial features. Probably lucky I didn't, because who knows what my reaction may have been back then when I was 17, 18 years old, right? But as I sit here right now and try to picture the absolute fine details of a canine head on ripped, wide shoulders, arms, legs, torso, pecs. What the F? Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? It's just such a nasty ass visual description that's been delivered to us thousands of times that thousands of unfortunate people have had to swallow, haven't had that reality slapped in their face, and they gotta swallow it and eat it. There's no way out of it. You can't hide that meal under your fork, your knife on the plate, get away with it, right? My reaction wouldn't be too good. I would find that absolutely threatening. I definitely would not. My first thought would not be to go get a stick and toss it for it to see if I wanted to play fetch. Right? Anyway, babbling. Babbling. I lost myself there. And on that note, I think I'm going to get going. Talking too much right now is a little discomfort. I took a couple of T3s, I guess, before I started this, so I'm looking forward to this shit being gone. A pain in the ass. And I think tomorrow I'm going to get up and go look for some elk. I have to. Quick look for a herd of elk. This monster bull I've been hoping to see this year in videotape. Go check some trail cameras out that I laid out there and see what's going on. And then whip back real quick because my truck is broken down again. And it's very unfortunate. Maybe I'll share this with you guys just because. Picture this one. So my fuel pump died last winter. Got a friend of mine pointed me to a mechanic here in town, and he is a good mechanic. He's a good guy, an honest guy, and he's busy. And he got me in there, so he replaced my fuel pump. And then all of a sudden, I got back from up north. We went out to the boat. We're coming back in the logging roads. The truck died. Instant, no fuel. I'm like, what? Gotta be kidding me. No. And it was the only place in the whole road we had cell service. You know, Sarah and I, we phoned in for a tow truck, sat there for 3 hours. Got the tow truck. What was it? $207 bill. I got him to take it to my house. This is Sunday. Had a bunch of stuff in it. And then I had to pay another $140 to get it towed to this mechanic's place. And then he had it for a week. And he said to replace the fuel pump again. No cost to me. Okay, cool. Went and grabbed the truck. We had 3-year-old Chippy in the truck. And the 17-year-old daughter. We're trying to get them to the ferry on time so they can walk on because the little man had to leave. It's pouring rain. Everything is closed and the truck died again on the side of the frickin' highway. You imagine the frustration I had? I was going absolutely bananas. Wouldn't start, no fuel. Called a cab. Sent the kids off in the cab to make the ferry so they get them to Vancouver. $107. And then there's a coffee shop we walked to in the rain. Called a tow truck. Got a ride with him back into Port Alberni. Dropped my truck off. Got him to drop us off downtown. We went for lunch. Then we walked in the rain a couple miles towards home before we caved in and ordered a cab. Got the cab home. My truck stayed there for another week, which is this past week. I went and got the truck today, and I know he's feeling bad, and he's a good man. I can't imagine I'd be feeling a little embarrassed about it now too, right? And as I left the mechanic shop today, I said to him, man, I hope it doesn't do it again. You know, and he goes, yeah, it shouldn't. I'm like, okay, good. So he put another brand new on warranty fuel pump in there. And then we had to go to the hospital. So I've got this IV thing still in my arm. So they just go in and screw into my arm and hook me up. And I'd be there at 2:30. And it was 2:27. We pulled in down the hill and then it goes uphill in the parking lot, emergency, and the regular parking. The truck caved again. No fuel. Wouldn't turn over. Now a bus driver comes up behind me and he's pissed. Everybody's freaking out. Sarah's freaking out. I'm like, this is not happening. This isn't happening. Fuel pump. I fixed all my vehicles all the time. I mean, not all the time, but I fix my own vehicles. So she's like, just go into the hospital, hurry up, you don't want to do it, I'll take care of it. So I go in the hospital, hooked up the IV. She phoned the mechanic, and you know women, they get a little more stressy with this shit than us, right? And I guess she phoned him right away. I can't believe it, we're broken down in the middle of an emergency hospital. He goes, okay, get a tow truck. I'm not paying for another tow truck. So she's losing her shit. I'll send a tow truck, And then by the time I got done and got outside, the tow truck was loading my truck on the truck again, and off it went. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? I don't get mad at shit. Shit happens, but I mean, come on, man. It must be one of his mechanics is doing something wrong. I don't know what's going on. I feel bad for him. That's got to be one shitty and humiliation sandwich to eat, right? And here I am truckless again. It's driving me bonks. I was all excited because I said to Sarah, I'm like, that's it. I'm going looking for elk tomorrow morning. Thank God I got my truck back. Nope, not now. But at least I can sneak off in the morning for at least an hour anyway. I'll get up at 5, puts me there. for first light, and I'll see if I can hurry up and maybe possibly find this monstrous bull I'm hoping to find. Videotape them. We'll check my 1, 2, 3, 4 trail cameras I got out. See what's on there. I'm gonna whip home and keep going. There you go. I hope my rant didn't put too many people to sleep, but it is what it is. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. And one more quick shout out to Lacey and Danny and Dylan McLeod. I'm saying a big hello to you kids, and thank you so much for you and your father thinking about Sarah and I and all the people here and reaching out and doing such a kind thing. You're very, very kind people. Thank you so much. And there you go. And those, except for the ones I keep, they will be, they are getting, the love is getting spread around. The love's getting spread around right now. So there. Thanks again, you guys. And I'll be back tomorrow. Unless something goofy happens in the woods, I'll be back tomorrow. And I'll report in with all my adventures, and I'll show you what I see. And hopefully I have a great big huge monstrous bull elk and just call him in or something. Something's going to happen tomorrow. Something usually happens. And I'll videotape it and I'll share it. So, share my story at howtohunt.com. And I think if you get your order in through Sarah's store, you'll get your hands on one of those free items that this kind family produces for free. Alright? Talk to you later.